I'm slightly worried because I have on to my right a thing that says 6 minutes over, time is up. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, good afternoon. I would like to begin by thanking the Chairman, His Excellency Mr. Olafur Ragnar Grimsson, for his invitation to the Arctic Circle Assembly, and to say what an honor it is to be participating in such a meaningful event. It is indeed a great thrill to be back in Iceland after only 29 years. My late husband often used to reflect on the delightful luncheon hosted by President Grimsson, and we would remember the wide-ranging conversation topics that we covered whilst we enjoyed Icelandic delicacies. You would not be surprised to hear that the topics included the subject of geothermal energy. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, you are here because you are familiar with the Arctic and recognize the many issues that need to be discussed concerning this region, issues that in the wider context affect the whole world. I cannot lay claim to any professional knowledge or expertise, but I have served as the honorary president of BirdLife International since 2004 and have spent much time with conservationists and ornithologists, both in the field and in many meeting rooms. And since my visit to Baffin Island, Nunavut in Canada, Greenland, and of course Iceland, I have met many scientists who specialize in the polar regions, and thanks to them, have attended many symposia and meetings. In other words, I have spent nearly 30 years in the company of such learned experts, and as you may imagine, that has provided me with a lot of food for thought. So today, I will not be presenting the official position of any organization, country, or region. You will have many people, much better qualified than me, to do that later. Of course, that is not to say that I do not have strong opinions, and sometimes about the rights and wrongs of various policies, measures, or trends, but that will be for the coffee break. Here, I would like to share with you some personal thoughts related to how I view life on this planet, in the hope that they may be of some interest to you. The Earth is home to an astonishing variety of life forms. Each species evolves and adapts to its surroundings, securing the energy it needs in its own unique way. The division of roles is known as an ecological niche. The greater the diversity of niches, the more species that can coexist within a given environment. However, the more specialized the adaptation, the more vulnerable that species is to any change. Now then, what about the human species? We started walking upright, and we developed a large brain. Unlike other species, we did not adapt our bodies to any ecological niche, but used our large brain to craft tools, make clothing, and build strong shelters. We could therefore live in any climate, any terrestrial environment. We discovered fire and learned to use it. We devised transportation. We grew crops, domesticated animals, grew in number, and we spread. Now, the whole world has become our habitat. For all living creatures, the greatest danger lies in the loss or degradation of their habitat, and species that have adapted to specific ecological niches are the most vulnerable. Human activities affect the remotest corners of the Earth. The human species has become a threat to the existence and survival of other life forms, and also a threat to itself. In May 2025, the rate of Greenland ice melt surged 17 times faster than the normal rate amid record Arctic heat. The global temperature has continued to be well above average. Implications include the increased rate of sea level rise, the flooding of low-lying areas, for instance, in rice-growing areas of Southeast Asia, and the resultant food crises. It includes the melting of sea ice in the Arctic, not only leading to the opening of the Northwest Passage for shipping, but also to coastal erosion and release of methane, a greenhouse gas that only reinforces global temperature rise. And changes in the wider environment as new temperature regimes alter ecological niches, driving some species into new areas and other species simply to extinction. Since 1958, we have a continuous record of the CO2 content of the atmosphere, the Keeling curve. It is rising all the time, apart from seasonal fluctuations, which is a demonstration of our abject failure to reduce emissions. Throughout Earth's long history, there have been alternating periods of glaciation and warmth. However, the recent and seemingly abnormal climatic shifts cannot but be seen as a manifestation of human-induced global warming. Over many years, I have had the privilege to observe and support education and research concerning both the Arctic and the Antarctic. I have spent time with indigenous peoples of various regions, particularly in Nunavut and Greenland. And most recently, during the Te Aratini Indigenous Peoples Week at Expo in Osaka. And I am always struck by the similarities between their traditional beliefs and that of the Japanese. The lives and cultures of indigenous peoples whose lifestyles are rooted in coexistence with nature are a global heritage that provide us with insights on how to have a more sustainable relationship with Earth. It is of paramount importance to keep to the scientific and political path that decades of research have shown to be the only way to protect the livelihoods of the people who live in the Arctic regions and in other vulnerable areas around the world. Indeed, it is the only way to save our planet, and we have come so far down a dangerous path that every single mistake we make now could be lethal. In facing these challenges, the role of polar educators, those who bridge the worlds of science, indigenous knowledge, and the public, is of immense importance. This is a polar educator occasion. The Arctic Circle Assembly includes government officials, companies, researchers, environment conservation organizations, activists, indigenous peoples, all committed to engaging in fruitful discussions to ensure that the Arctic remains a region of peace and cooperation. Surely, we should be able to use our big brain to find a good solution. Surely, if we can send people to the moon, we should be able to find ways to protect the environment in which we thrive. It is a truly beautiful planet. Why would we want opportunities? Why would we waste opportunities to keep it that way? In getting this message across, I believe that it is the polar educators who have the most vital role to play. Not everyone thinks that global warming, even if they admit that it exists, is caused by human activity. And amongst those that do, not everyone realizes how serious the global situation is. Who better than the polar educators to sound the alarm and muster the evidence to convince the rest of the world to change its ways? If every one of us could temper, even slightly, our pursuit of convenience, comfort, or profit, we might yet preserve the balance of our nature's ecosystems. Doing something, however small, is always better than doing nothing. It's not too late, but if we have less and less time left, so I do hope that the energy emitted here in this iconic Harbour Concert Hall and Conference Center will be harnessed to maximum effect for the good of our planet Earth. Thank you.
The imperial protocol in Japan is such that there are very few visits every year that members of the imperial family make. So we are extremely honored, and I think it's an important signal to the Arctic Circle Assembly and to the Arctic peoples as such that you accepted our invitation to be here with us and share with us your message. I think it in many ways a very strong signal from Japan. But also, as we both know and you just mentioned, when your late husband, the Prince, and you came to Iceland in 1996 in the fall, you were the first foreign visitors I received as a newly elected president, and you were on your way to Greenland. And in 1996, for such prominent members of the imperial family in Japan to travel to Iceland and Greenland was highly unusual, not just for the imperial family in Japan, but almost for anybody else in the world. And although I have not done a research on it, I think you were probably the first royals, apart from the Danish family, ever to turn up in Greenland. So let me ask you this. When you traveled to Greenland with your husband, both of you young at that time, what was your impression of Greenland? Are you willing to share that with us in this way?
Yes.
I think you just speak into it. I think
I speak into it?
Yeah.
It goes on?
Yeah.
I just realized you're seeing some of my photographs. Just off the point, not answering the question. In fact, I'm also an avid amateur bird photographer. I will be going out tomorrow to do some photographing of birds here. But that's why you're seeing these. My husband and I had been to the northern part, to Baffin Island. It was not Nunavut yet. And so we had been to the Arctic North. And that was because my husband had studied for 3 years at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And so we went to the Canadian North. And we had heard all sorts of stories about the fact that the western side of Greenland had much in common with the Inuit of Baffin Island. So when I arrived, and I arrived on the eastern side of Greenland, I was rather surprised to see that the culture there was different. The language was different. Not that I understand the Inuit language that well, but simple words were different. The costumes of the women were different. And I had never seen such a big expanse of ice before. We were there at the beginning of September. The aurora was absolutely gorgeous. But I was also surprised that the snow that we have in Japan will absorb sound. But because it is ice, it doesn't absorb sound. Actually, it's quite, it's almost like metallic. You hear a lot of sound, and that surprised me.
We discussed this a little bit when you arrived. And your officials pointed out that when Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Princess Victoria came here and spoke, they didn't take questions. But so let me have some lights in the hall. And it might be risky for me personally in the imperial household to put the questions, but I hope it will not be risky for you. So let's see if there's anybody in the hall who wants to use this unique, absolutely unique opportunity of putting a question, not just to the imperial family of Japan, but all the entire royal families in the world. So don't be polite. I mean, where do we? Yes. Okay. Yes.
Your Highness, thank you very much. My name is Meade Treadwell. I'm from Alaska. I just wanted to first say that Japan helped create Arctic cooperation from the Northern Region Center in Hokkaido. And among the early projects of regional governments, the Northern Forum, was the migratory cranes that moved back and forth between Alaska, Eastern Siberia, and Japan, and cranes are revered in Japan. I wanted to ask if in your conservation efforts, you've looked also at the fisheries in the North Pacific, because we are having a crisis in the Arctic with the return of salmon, which may be related to genetics, may be related to bycatch, may be related to Russian activities. And the birds and the fish come together. And this is an issue that affects many people in the Arctic?
Thank you for your question. Because I'm the honorary president, a lot of things come as reports in my direction, and we have specialists that are involved in different aspects of it. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to evade the question, but I don't actually know the specifics. But I do know that because the whole of the environment and the ecosystem is interconnected, BirdLife does have a very overall view of how we do things. So we do work on 4 pillars of species and sites and of systems, and we try and make sure that we cover all sorts of things. But we do have a flyways program, which is very big, and we also have a marine program, which is very big. And of course, scientists that specialize in various regions will be doing that sort of thing. But of course, if it's an Alaska problem or if it's an Alaska issue, we do have a partner in the United States, which is the Audubon Society. And when we operate together internationally, we operate as BirdLife. But if the Audubon Society is able to do it of its own accord, then it will probably do it. But it will probably also ask BirdLife to help, because it also has experts, because the more involved in it, the better, yes. So we are probably doing things, but I'm sorry, I don't have a specific answer to that one. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you, Mead, for putting your question. I hope you realize we have made history here today in the 1,000 years of...
May I just ask...
No. I'm getting strict orders here because we need to bring in live some people from different parts of the world. But congratulations on these extraordinary photographs. I think we should applaud for extraordinary photographs. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yes.
It just says the photos are amazing. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much.